welcome to the April meeting of the Public Art and Culture Commission. I am Chair Joanna Haggerty. The Public Art and Culture Commission, originally called the Public Art Board, was established by Asheville City Council in 2000. This 9-member commission serves as an advisory board to the city on matters concerning arts in public spaces. The commission is responsible for promoting public art in the city, overseeing the city's public art projects, and ensuring the art displays in public buildings and public spaces in the city are properly maintained. All committee members and staff are participating in person. Welcome today, and just a quick reminder, we're still kind of new to our in-person meetings. When you speak, use the mic so that everybody can hear us too on the recording. All right, the first thing today is to approve or update, edit any of the March meeting minutes. So did everybody get a chance to look at those meeting minutes? Yeah, does anybody have any edits or things that they feel like need to be addended? Okay, great. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Great. And then all in favor? I forget, do we raise hands or say aye? Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. This is like my third, fourth meeting in this role, so thanks for working with me. Okay, great.
Approved.
Approved. All
Oh,
right.
wait, I did have a reminder on the agenda
Oh, yes.
that we have that open
Yeah.
PAC seat. Joanna's PAC seat will be open. Her term ends on June 30th, and applications are open and available via the clerk's boards and commissions website until April 28th. So we have something up on the public art program page. I know that Katie's been pushing it through Arts AVL's channels, and if you can send the word out through your networks or reach out to individuals you think would be a good fit on the commission, please do so.
And I guess we're also looking for another chair as well.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that. My thoughts, and we had talked about this a little bit, is that maybe at the next meeting, like after this meeting, I'll send out a request for nominations for chair, and then our next meeting we can go ahead and vote on the new chair, and then there'd be a little bit of overlap between Joanna and the chair for some training and handoff that happens. If that sounds good to everybody, then I'll plan to put that on our agenda for next time. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, new business. John, you're up. Oh, no, you're not. I'm sorry.
You looked a little scared. Sorry. You get up here.
Please.
Do you have slides?
I don't have slides.
Okay.
But the good news is, what I would be showing you a slide of is literally right outside the building, so you can go see it. And I'm going to encourage you to do that anyway. So that was part of, I'd like to say that was part of my plan all along, was so that you would visit the trail. But it's really more that nobody wants to see a presentation PowerPoint that I've put together, because I'm not a designer. Nobody wants to see that. So hi, good afternoon. I am Kimberly Purrier. I'm from Explore Asheville, and I work as the Destination Project Manager in the Partnership and Destination Management Department. And part of my job was, or is, completing the Asheville Black Cultural Heritage Trail. So the trail has been in the works for quite some time, so I'm going to give you all a little bit of background that some of you already know because some of you are on the advisory committee or you've heard about it. But I'm going to just bring us all up to speed where we came from, and then tell you where we are now and where it's going next and how it might come into impacting with you all. So background is, in 2018, the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority committed to a $100,000 investment through our Tourism Product Development Fund grant program. In addition to that, they also committed to providing dedicated staff for the development of the trail. So me and others as well. A lot of people have been involved in this project over the last, many years. I was going to try and add a number to it, but it even started before Explore Asheville for a long time. So the development of the trail included, since 2018, a community engagement process, design, installation, and the creation of a digital version of the trail on the exploreasheville.com platform. So I joined Explore Asheville in March of 2023 and aided in the completion of the design, installation, and digital creation part of it. But in 2019 and 2020, a 19-person advisory committee of community members was created, and there were community listening sessions and workshops held. Actually attended some of those, not as part of Explore Asheville or but just as a community. From those listening sessions, there were 4 main interpretive themes that were created or identified for the trail at that time. One is the accomplishments and contributions of the Black community in Asheville. The second one that came out of that was celebrating individuals and groups that supported the community. The third one was Black people's agency and the capacity to express individual power. And then the fourth one was combating or correcting misconceptions and preserving history for future generations. So the trail itself, those interpretive signs, were completed in December. So we launched that just a few months ago with 14 stops and 20 curated signs throughout 3 different areas, so downtown, south side, and the river area. And from there, I'm not going to go into the details of it because I want you to go experience the trail, but I did bring rack cards today that are going to outline the interpretive themes and ideas that you're going to see on a lot of those panels throughout those different sections. In addition to that, on these, you can find on Explore Asheville's website, it's BCHT, so blackculturalheritagetrail.exploreasheville.com. You can go there, find the trail, find the maps, find all of the content, additional content to the signs. With that, launched in December, we're now in full swing with the marketing department and our PR team. What they've been doing, they've been responding to numerous reporter requests, including an article that will be coming out in Garden and Gun. The PR team promoted the trail in its 2024 media pitching and press releases. So as a result of that PR outreach, Explore Asheville is going to be hosting 10 Black travel writers representing publications including Forbes, Bloomberg, and Travel and Leisure for an upcoming press trip that's actually scheduled in about a week and a half from now. But the main reason I'm kind of here today is to talk about the next phase and just let you know of what's going on. So the project's not done. We are in phase 2 now. So while the signs were installed in December, there is a phase 2 public art component that was always part of this trail before my time. From the Black Cultural Heritage Trail Advisory Committee, we have formed a 7-person working group to complete this task. So we are looking to complete at least 2 large-scale public art installations to complete the interpretive themes of the trail, aid in wayfinding and placemaking. And we actually met with that working group today. So excited that we are going to be launching the call for artists by May 1st. So that will go on the Black Cultural Heritage Trail website. And in the meantime, we are also finalizing all of our locations and what that will look like. But the call for artists and just qualifications will be posted by May 1st on the website. Again, it's bcht.exploreasheville.com. And then I hope to have more specific details as we continue to work through this process, but wanted to bring you up to speed on that. So that's all I've got. Do I have to take questions or should I sit down? I can go sit down now unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Kimberly? I was wondering, did you all, like we've talked a little bit about locations, did you all hone in on some spots? Do you know, like is it going to be on city property, county?
So
private?
that is still up. There were a few people who couldn't attend the meeting today that we definitely want input from. And so, and I have one more that I'm going to reach out to, one more property owner, building owner, to hopefully expand some of our locations to include all 3 areas of the trail. So it hasn't been completely finalized yet, but I hope to have that finalized in the next week of where we want to try and have locations. And so once I hear back from the working group on that finalized, there is a good potential that some of the art installations we are looking to do will be on city property.
Okay.
So that will definitely be something that we'll be coming to you for. Yeah.
And just so other PAC members know, Alexandria and I are serving on the steering committee,
Yes.
as well as Penelope.
Yeah, I've got quite a few of you. So, yeah, it probably, I would be surprised if it doesn't, if at least one of them doesn't end up on some city property, but, yeah.
Okay,
I
so
hope
in
to
that
have-
case, I think PAC would definitely be involved in
Mhm.
reviewing, the artist and the art proposals and,
Mhm.
going through that process from the city side of things.
Great.
So,
Any other questions about the trail? I'll have these, I'm gonna stay the whole time, so at the end, if you need these.
I'll just say at our meeting this morning, one of the big discussions about selecting locations was all of the other projects that are currently happening and making sure there's coordination between the two. So there might need to be another meeting with the city
Yeah.
and PAC members, talk about, the public art installations that are happening in the River Arts District already and the PAC Plaza and the Connecting the Block project.
yeah, I think there's a lot of coordination potentially that will need to happen depending on which
Absolutely.
direction you all lead.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's exciting.
Yeah, it's all good stuff, so. All right.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now John.
He's prepared at this moment.
Finally.
One more.
There we are. My name is John Philman. I'm with the Office of Special Events at the Community and Regional Entertainment Facilities Department, and I'm here to give you an update on where we are with the competitive selection criteria. As you recall, we started out by explaining what this actually was and when it was last updated in 2019. We asked for the help of some PAC members to help us come to some new results with this form. The first step, we evaluated the categories and just established that we do want to continue with the economic impact, environmental impact, roadway impact, and community impact. We pretty much eliminated the impact on city services piece, but that will be a consideration for any competitive selections that we do in the future. We also talked about including a social and cultural impact area, but that is really not possible because these pieces are all content related. And so that was not able to be included in our final draft. So prioritization of measures. We have strong, moderate, and light, and I know there's a lot on this slide, so I just wanted to show you how they line up. Environmental is in green, community is in purple or pink, and blue is the economic impact. I have these broken down into separate slides. So strong impact, we have environmental, community, and economic impact. Those include property recovery time, interruption of transit services, job creation, outside spending, and utilization of local service providers. Moderate impact is the estimated attendance of the event, how the event impacts other areas outside of the actual footprint of the event, how it impacts area residents, normal business operations, and if there is a cost to attend. Economic impact is relationship to season, history of the event, and business promotion, and those are all in the moderate impact areas. And light impact, environmental impact, whether the event has washroom facilities, and the roadway impact, length of closure, time of day, number, and type. So testing the model, this is where we really see where it all works out. So history of event, the strongest result would be 10 plus years on any site. The weakest result is the first year overall. We have relationship to season. The weakest result is September because that is our most popular month of the year, and we are looking for more events in the off-season, January and February. Potential for job creation, that is either primary focus of event is business development, which is the strongest possible result, and no notable impact would be the weakest, and I can read these out, or you can read them for yourself. These are all the areas that we're looking at to evaluate what event would potentially get the space versus another. Property cover time, washroom facilities, estimated total attendance, event containment, impact on normal business operations, and impact on area residents are all of those. You can see that the strongest results would have no property recovery time, whereas the weakest results would have 15+ days. And again, strongest result, interruption of public transit services would be no impact. Weakest result would be interruption of 2 or more transit routes. Free would be our preference for events versus ticketed. Length of closures, no street closures versus multiple blocks of streets being closed. And time of day, no street closures or weekday rush hour being our least preferred option. So I'd like, since we have a little bit of time, Carly, if that's okay, I'd like to take you through this draft impact assessment worksheet. I know that one of the commission members recently completed our former worksheet, and so this should be a little bit better, easier to understand. Property recovery time was one of the things that, let's see, can I get, there we go. And do we scroll with 2 fingers here? Maybe just with that. Duration of the event. So in working with Alexandria on the Goombay versus Blue Ridge Pride, we had to evaluate that one. And it worked out where as we thought, both events were virtually equal in their scoring results. And we really had to make the allocation based on what space we had available. So that was where we had 3 days for Goombay, and we had 1 day for Blue Ridge Pride, plus another space on Friday for a Blue Ridge Pride activation at the Green if they choose to do that on Friday night. So I think in the end, both parties are satisfied with the result, and we were able to accommodate both, which is great. But property recovery time was one of those questions that Alexandria had in our process, and I thought that is interesting because how would the general public understand how much time it takes for a property to recover from an event? So I changed this up a little bit here and brought it down to the event organizer really just needs to tell us how long their event is taking place for us to come up with the total. So that would be anywhere from 1 to 3 hour event up to a week, 2-week long event or greater. Washroom facilities is on here. You can see that each of these has a choice, whether you would be selecting no facilities provided, existing on-site only, existing and supplemental, or supplemental units only. It is preferred supplemental units only because they have a lower impact on the environment. And as we go through this form, we go into community impact, event containment, impact on area residents, interruption of public transit services, cost to attend, which is basically a free or ticketed, and ticketed would get you the 5-point total, and free would give you 0 points towards your total. Of course, the goal is to have the least number of points. Roadway impact here, and I would actually have to complete this form to get you further down through the list, so let me just add in a couple results. We're going to call this test. And we'll say our property recovery time is going to be for a 4 to 6 hour event, washroom facilities, supplemental units only, estimated attendance, just pick some of these here. And I'm not being, I have no discretion on what I'm selecting here just to get us through the form. History of event, let's say this is the first year overall. Relationship to season, it's September. popular month. Job creation, likely to incentivize temporary hiring. I think a lot of events would feel that that's appropriate. Outside spending primarily attracts a local audience. Business promotion includes hotel partners, room night guarantees. It does sound fun. 100% local vendors and service providers. That sounds great. And here we have the final score of 20. So when we submit that, we get our results here where a printable receipt is available and the applicant could submit a second response. It gives them the total max score they could potentially get. So this would be 66 possible points could be earned. 20 is a relatively good score for this.
What platform are you using?
FormSite. And that is the end of this quick demo of the FormSite system and the application. So our next step is to really think about, do we have these weights and measures scored properly? Are they working? We won't know until we put it into action. We start taking some real-time results to see. But would you have any recommendations on things that you'd like to see higher or lower on this list of, oops, which way am I going? If I go into this slide, do you have any on this list that you feel that should be moved? Would be a question we could consider. I moved from moderate to strong, from strong to light. Brent and Pete did a lot of work on this, so.
I was going to say, you guys know events so well. You've had support. I think this is amazing, honestly, personally.
If you're satisfied with this model, we can move forward with this. I think Carly suggested you could make a motion to
A motion of support.
motion of
recommendation
support.
For the new form.
We're,
And then the final, approval, whatever would come from the.
we'll take it back to the Outdoor Special Event team, and we'll let them know that this was the recommendation from the Public Art and Cultural Commission, and that they should approve it.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So, likewise, I was asking about the recovery time. How do people know that?
Mhm.
I'm also curious about attendance, which I also asked you about.
How do
Like,
people know?
How do people know? Like, I did go to Explore Asheville and asked if during this year's Goombay, if somebody could come with those little devices that tell you how many people are traveling in the space, to kind of give us some idea for the following year. But I mean, how do people figure that out? Particularly folks who are doing it for the first time.
Yeah. What I tell people is you have to look at a similar event done in a similar city
Okay.
and use that data to determine what you could expect here in Asheville.
Okay.
For a first-year event, it's really tough to understand, where you're going to be with your attendance. But you know what you're prepared for. So you want to be prepared for 1,000 people, or you want to be prepared for 50 people. And those look like different situations there. So it's just our best guess scenario. I've been through multiple sessions at conferences on estimating event attendance for free and events that are open to the public. Other than standing above, high up, and doing a grid and trying to come up with numbers of how many people you actually see in the grid, it's really impossible to say. You can only do your best guess at what you think you're going to have.
It just seems like if that is an evaluation point,
Mhm.
right, where we're going to score that,
Mhm.
like I would say, oh yeah, we're going to have like 12 people. I'm just kidding. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, 12 people would be really a small event. I think that if you'd like us to remove the piece on estimated attendance, we could consider that.
Well, no, I think I'm looking for more guidance, because I think
Right.
it is important for people to be prepared
Mhm.
and for the city to be prepared as well. It's just that in order for people to do their best work and not have to call you, as I
Right.
have done,
Right.
for every single question. And then I want to go back to one more thing.
Sure.
The advertising, the national advertising. question is, if it's an event that a group like Explore Asheville is going to be promoting or mentioning, does that become national advertising? Wasn't that one of the,
That's a good question.
because then I could say,
I think it would,
And
I
it
think it
was
would be, depending on how it's being promoted. So that
Okay.
goes into, this would be into the, potentially the outside spending category. And I think that we may have removed, oh, business promotion, no, it's in there. 0 to 6. I don't really know what to suggest with that one, honestly, Alexandra.
okay,
I had
they're
a
just questions.
I had a
you
simple
know.
thought that, like, sometimes I think on that form you could provide a little more explanation to some things too, right?
Mhm.
This is how we recommend you do that, or, like just a
Right.
sentence or two. Because I agree, those things are, maybe again, I'm an event producer and have been for a long time, so sometimes my brain's like, duh, I get that, but you're right. Like, I had to learn how to be like, oh, it's about 10 people. Okay,
Mhm.
like, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's a
Well-
very fair statement.
Mhm.
Are
Um,
there calculators that you could use, like, to help estimate based on other input? Maybe some people do.
There's a Porta-John calculator online.
I need that too.
Yeah,
There's-
I think that's a great idea though, but if
There's-
there's resources for certain questions, yeah. How many people, how many porta
I don't
potties?
know.
You don't want to get that one wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a calculator that could tell us that, but I'll look into it.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then for the national advertising that you're talking about, this is like a requirement or like.
No, it's just,
explain that a little bit more.
it's just basing, let me see if I have one of these here. Did I pass it? Do you see it?
One more? There, outside spending.
Outside spending.
Oh, okay.
That would be right. So there are grades between the local audience and the marketed nationally. So whether you're marketing regionally or whether you're not marketing at all, whether you're, well, I'd have to go into the tool to be able to look at our individual levels there. But there's about 4 different levels there that it could be one. So.
It's explained a little bit more when you get into the tool.
Yeah, when we get into the tool. So maybe what we could do is if everyone would take a moment to do a test on the tool. You should have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation with the agenda.
It's linked
It's linked in
in the agenda.
the
that I
agenda.
sent.
And if you could provide any feedback after you go through that to see what you think, and maybe by the next meeting, we can come forward and just say, this looks good, this doesn't? Okay. Thank you.
I'm about to do a lot of talking, so there's a lot of content to go through and updates to go through. So basically, for the focus group update that Rachel, Pat, and myself are on, where we're developing the work plan, we were able to meet once in person and talk a little bit more about the working groups. And I started putting together, it's more of a process procedure, but thinking about how we frame our work and how we go about tackling projects in PAC, and in the development of our work plan. So I was trying to give some definitions around what a work group is. And the idea is that the working groups are groups that are focused on a process or project or an effort that is going to take most likely the entire year, and probably involves multiple steps or maybe multiple projects. And it's something that is pulled from the priorities that we developed and identified during our retreat. So the idea is that these groups would form. There would be at least 2 PAC members, but no more than 5. We want to keep it below quorum. and that each group will develop a project timeline and milestones for that current year based on their scope of work that's been laid out in the work plan, and that each group will have a designated group leader who is responsible for scheduling meetings, getting on PAC agendas, and reporting out on those milestones that that working group develops together. This is still in draft form. I'm just saying this is just me pretty much sitting down for a few hours and trying to hash some of this out and think through things. And the idea is that these working groups should plan to give an update to PAC upon request or at these identified milestone moments or when any sort of action or approval is required before you can move to the next step. And these, I'm going to go through draft once again of the different working groups that I'm thinking should be formed with PAC based on what we discussed at the retreat and what we've discussed amongst ourselves. The executive working group is one of those working groups that's just going to form every year, and that is made up of the chair and the vice chair and the staff liaison, and then any PAC admin. And that's we've been meeting the week before our PAC meetings just to make sure that our agenda is set. Other meeting planning, membership, annual retreat planning, that sort of thing happens with that group. The other working group that I'm proposing, or that we are proposing, is the Urban Trail Working Group. And the idea is that there would be PAC members, 2 PAC members that would sign up for that. I think that the Explore Asheville seat, so Penelope's seat, makes a lot of sense to be on that group since they host the online content and have helped with the development of some of that collateral and marketing. And then that there will also be 2 Urban Trail Committee members that would join that group as well. And the projects that I'm proposing, or that we are proposing for this group, would be the reinstallation of the Art Deco masterpiece. And there's a lot more detail on this Word document that I put together that I'm going to share with you all after the fact, or after this meeting, so you can go through and look at it in more detail and add comments. This is a very simplified version. So underneath all these roles and responsibilities are the steps and kind of projects and actions that I envision would need to happen for some of this stuff. But for the reinstallation of the Art Deco masterpiece, it's basically at least 1 member, PAC member from this working group would need to serve on the artist selection panel and be involved with the process. Another project under here is working to develop draft policy and roles and responsibilities for the Urban Trail Committee versus PAC. So thinking about whose role it is to make sure that brochures are updated and that they are stocked in the Visitors Center or at the ADA, making sure that online content matches print collateral, that sort of thing. Splitting up those roles and responsibilities and making it super clear through policy when those things should happen, when maybe the Urban Trail Committee will put together some sort of maintenance request where they prioritize the stations on the trail that they think are in most need of maintenance. In that policy, maybe there's once a year where that happens, and we're outlining that and making that super clear between the 2 groups. Hi. And then another project that wow. Ooh, that's yeah. Can y'all hear me? Could you not hear me before? Rewind.
Oh, no. Well, none of the microphones were on, were they?
Oh, cool. That's great.
Now. I was trying so hard to use the mic, too.
We're just doing the best we can. We are. We're doing the best with what we got. And then another project, once again, these are draft, these are based on discussions that I've had with all of you in our retreat, is coming up with a draft marketing plan for the Urban Trail. And I think that's something that, working with Explore Asheville could be really helpful and useful for us moving forward. And that could look at ideas for partnerships or tours or different promotions that potentially the Urban Trail Committee could take on. So more to come on that. Lots of discussions to have with the Urban Trail Committee, but this is, once again, a framework trying to start somewhere. And then the next working group would be focused on policy and procedures. And so this was one of the highest
starred items from our retreat, things that we need to update and get a handle on. So this would include reviewing our public art policy and the implementation guidelines that have not been updated in quite some time, and making sure that those match the way that we want to be doing things. So do we have criteria for prioritizing different public art projects that are using our 1% funds? It used to be that 1% for public art that came off of capital projects was based on that particular project, or at that particular capital project location. So the Broadway Public Safety Station, they had that money set aside for public art. The public art is going there. Now it's all being pooled into one pot, and we need to be the ones who decide how that money is allocated. There needs to be a process and criteria helping us decide those things. So that's what I envision going on in this group and being talked about during this project under this working group. And then the other thing that we need to update is PAC bylaws. And so now that we have designated seats for Arts AVL, Explore Asheville, and UNCA, we need for our bylaws to talk about how those people roll on and off, how the director designates who they want to be or nominates who they want to be on the PAC. We need to go through and have bylaws that are specific to how we want to operate, because right now we're relying on the general boards and commission rules and guidelines. And maybe some of those are fine. That's something that I want this group to look at, but maybe we need to customize them a little more for us. And then the other topic or project that came to the top as a high priority in the retreat was looking at our public art inventory and a maintenance plan. And I'm thinking for this one that there'd be a good bit of research that would happen up front. So really looking at what should be included in a public art inventory. That might involve researching what other cities are doing, maybe testing out different softwares to kind of see what we think will help us manage and capture what we want to when it comes to our public art inventory. And then the second phase of this would be helping staff in reviewing a draft scope of work for a contractor to help us capture all this public art inventory, enter it into the asset management system, and help us come up with a way to keep things regularly maintained, because I think that's a big need for the city, and everybody else on PAC felt the same way when we talked at our retreat. So next steps. As I said, I'm going to share that work plan document that I put together that has more detailed questions and steps that breaks this out a little bit more. And I want everybody to go through and really take a look at that, mark it up, add comments. I want this to be a messy draft where we're getting into the weeds with stuff, because this is how we're going to get work done. And I want everybody to feel like they understand it and that it makes sense and that it feels like a way we can move forward together. And then the goal is to adopt the work plan and form those working groups at our next meeting. So, does that all sound good to everybody? Rachel, did I leave anything out?
No, I think you covered everything.
Listen to that reverberation.
I do have a question, maybe for all of us to think about when creating the working groups. Do you think it's possible to do that in a meeting, like all one meeting, or should we prepare in advance? I'm just wondering.
That's a good question. It could be that I send out a poll and people can indicate which ones they think they're interested in, if that sounds good. Or, I'm open for suggestions, or if you all want to discuss and let me know the best way to go about that.
I think that sounds good, but I'm also whatever y'all think. I was just thinking it might save some time of us staring at each other.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do?
Good to do a first pass at that now. We know enough to know.
Okay.
Particularly after we read the more detailed information.
Right.
Yeah, and it could be that we need to do a special session, like a work session, where we kind of go through this in more detail. We feel like we all need to sit around a table and talk through things more than at a public meeting. That's an option too.
I like the way you chunked out the work, the buckets that you put in. It's going to make us more effective.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I
just wanted to say thanks. You worked really hard on this, and
You're amazing.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been a team effort for sure, getting to this point, and we still have a lot to hash out, but thank you. Okay, so we'll leave it, maybe we'll wait until comments start coming in on the draft, and then we'll determine if we're gonna need to have a separate session where we work through things together. And potentially I can send out a poll or something, just seeing if people have an idea of where they feel like they're gonna be most helpful or useful or most interested in working, moving forward, unless you've already been captured for one.
I have a question about this board makeup,
Mhm.
and it's a clarifying question. I have nothing to offer on the contrary. I just want to understand.
Sure.
Arts AVL makes obvious sense to me. Can somebody explain to me, either in this meeting or outside of this meeting, about UNCA and Explore Asheville having designated seats? Just
Sure, does anybody on PAC wanna tackle that? I know we had a lot of discussions back and forth around that, but,
Sure, I can.
Okay.
You want me to?
yeah, go for it.
Great,
Stab
thank
it.
you.
So those are our two entities besides Arts AVL that the city works with mostly on public art projects. And so it just makes sense, because we work with them so often, to have a partnership and have them more formally at the table. So it's not designated that it is UNC Asheville, it's designated as a higher learning institution. And so we use Steam Studio, or I say we, the city uses Steam Studio a lot for the fabrication of public art projects and the coordination of that. So it made sense, at least for the first round, for that to be UNCA.
So it's actually a higher education learning seat that UNCA happens to be occupying at this time.
At this time, right?
Until when? Like how often?
Until
is
the
that?
Well, that's what the
term is-
bylaws.
That's
yeah.
what do the bylaws. Okay.
The bylaws that we're developing are going to go into more detail about how we cycle through the different institutions and
Okay,
reach out
cool.
to directors.
I
And
appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, and it's higher education institutions that have a designated arts program.
Perfect.
And so the chair of that arts program will designate who they think would be a good fit
And
on
then
that
be
seat.
reevaluated at the end of the term. not
Right.
necessarily sticking with the same institution.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And
And we will
then-
hash that out in our bylaws, exactly how that works. But yeah, that was a question that council asked when we went forward and updated our ordinance.
I missed that.
Yeah, well,
So thank you.
But it's a good question, and my answer was, we're going to figure that out with our bylaws when we update them, so.
And just so you know, Explore Asheville hosts the web pages for both the Urban Trail and the South Slope Mural Trail right now, as well as the new walking trail that they have. So they're very involved in the marketing of public art pieces right now, as well as they manage all the wayfinding signage. And so there's a lot of overlap, again, that makes sense for them to be at the table.
We did discuss and even debate a lot, right? And Explore Asheville, I think, was the hardest one for us to sort of decide on, right? But again, I think for us too, one of the things we've not been sure PAC is able to manage is the marketing aspect of arts and culture. And we know that that is a lot of what Explore Asheville does bring to the table. So that was the hope, was we don't have to reinvent the marketing wheel. We can use the wheel that's already working for us. So that was a big part of that
you.
closing piece. But I mean, we have documents, we got questions. I'm happy to send any of that if you want.
No, don't want you to.
I can do that.
You know, when I'm not a part of how we got there,
So
I just
fair.
simply want to know how we got there.
So fair, yeah.
That sounds great. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Do we feel like we're ready to move on? I think these next updates are going to go a little bit quicker since you all are already aware about this, but the Art Deco Masterpiece Call for Artists was issued on April 16th, woohoo, and it is going to be available for artists to submit their qualifications until May 13th. And this kind of outlines a little bit of the process, but there's a whole lot of juicy, wonderful details in that Call for Artists document, so I encourage you to take a look at it and walk through it. And my big ask to all of you is to share it with your networks and get the word out. If you know somebody that, you know, is really into Art Deco architecture, or loves doing public art and has experience working with cities, even if they don't, let them know, because we want to get as many people to apply as possible and be a part of this process. And that is a outline of the timeline that we're looking at here. There's a pre-proposal meeting where interested applicants can come and ask questions. It's a virtual meeting. The information's there. I think the city's going to put out a little blurb about that on their social web pages tomorrow, just to remind folks. It's optional. People don't have to come to that to be considered or to apply, but it's there in case there are questions. And then any questions I get via email or through that meeting will be answered and posted in an addendum that will be posted on May 3rd. And then submissions due May 13th. So here we go. Some other updates. The Urban Trail is working on edits to the printed maps and brochures, really focusing on kind of logistical stuff, making sure that, if station artwork isn't there or has changed, that's noted in the map and updated. And then the public art program is going to work with the graphic designer, the one who originally designed the brochures and the maps, to make any of those changes, make those updates. In the past few months, we have printed close to 2,500 brochures that we have been distributing to the Visitors Center and to the Asheville Downtown Association. And those have been flying off the racks like hotcakes. I don't know if people are like actually taking them out and doing the trail, or if they just like them the way they look and they stick them in their pocket and taking them with them. But they are going out super fast, which is wonderful. So there's a lot of interest. And I think something that we want to look at is, is having all of these printed brochures in the racks the best way for people to be able to access the trail? And is it the best use of our funds and resources to keep printing thousands of those on a regular basis? So I think for me, it makes sense to kind of keep track of how many we're printing, how fast they're going, and then maybe reassess in like 6 months and kind of think about, is there a different way we could do this? Or is this working? Is this how we want to continue allowing people to access the trail? And then we are also working on a contract. I've been reaching out to get estimates and quotes for bronze and stone restoration to go around and clean all the artwork and the plaques for the Urban Trail for all 30 stations. And we're thinking it's going to be around $25,000 to get that work done, more or less. But it's something that is very needed, and the Urban Trail Committee went out recently and did another assessment and looked at, the state of the trail. And so I think a good cleaning and kind of upkeep and sealing on some of the pieces is going to go a long way, and is something that's long overdue. So that is another update on Urban Trail items. And then another update, and Ellie here has been working with me on this a lot, is the River Arts District Public Art Audio Tour. There were some posts that went out recently on the City of Asheville's social pages talking about the availability of this tour and the launch of this tour. It's hosted by Autocast, which is real simple download, real easy to use and navigate. But if you're in the River Arts District and you download the Autocast app, it leads you to a map or a trail with different stations that are highlighted for some of the major public art pieces that are in the River Arts District. And then we have worked to capture photos and also interviews with the artists that created the various artwork. So you can listen while you're walking along the Greenway or walking to these different art pieces and hear from the artist about the creation of that piece. And so we're planning to do a series of social media posts and maybe a couple reels to kind of highlight this. We've also worked on these rack cards that we have stocked in the Arts AVL trolley. So when that goes out on Saturdays, these will be available for people to grab. And then we also have them at the Visitors Center. They're stocked at the main hub in the Visitors Center as well. So we'll see how fast those fly off the shelves. And I don't know, are you able to let us know when the trolley is running low on them? Is that something you can keep us updated on? Okay, great. Any questions on that or? Okay. And last thing, I think, yeah, The Jake Rusher playable art, that is something that has been in the works for several years now and has run into a couple bumps and hiccups. It's being managed by the Parks and Rec Department, but using the public art funds through that 1% that was dedicated to Jake Rusher Park. And I think there were some issues with the height of the original piece. It was a little bit too tall. I think it was close to 8 feet tall on one end. And so RISC and some of the other facilities folks felt that it needed to be modified so that there wasn't such a fall risk. And I think there were also some gaps in between some of the slats that were on the original piece that everyone felt were too wide and feet could get caught in the middle of. So they went back to the drawing board and made some safety modifications to that original design. But that contract has been all rewritten and figured out, and that project is moving forward. So construction and reinstallation of that piece is scheduled for May 2024. So we should see that hopefully in its final state very soon. Okay. And then I think we're at the point, what time is it? Do we have?
4:51.
All right, doing pretty good then. So yeah, I think at this point, if people want to go around and share any updates or things that they're working on, or if there are any topics or questions people want to bring up with the group, now's the time.
Well, I will announce that YMI has its new executive director, started on Monday, so we're excited about that. And hope to have the gallery space open soon. We are participating in the Mosaic Realty Art Walk. We are participating. We really are. It'll be on the corner of Suites A and B, at the corner of Eco and Market Street. And First Friday is next Friday.
I guess I'll go. Our Creative Spaces report is coming right along. It's over 90 pages, and it will be coming out as part of our town hall event on May 10th. So if you're not already registered, it's a free event. It's at Asheville Community Theater at 3 o'clock on May 10th. I highly recommend coming and finding out our results.
Punch Bucket has a reading on Thursday, which I think is the 3rd. Is it the 2nd? Second at Revolve Mercantile at 7, and we're bringing in 2 writers who are book tour from out of town, so it's going to be pretty cool. Beth Giles and Jessica Alexander, I believe. Richardson, sorry. I have a lot of names in my head tonight. So. Yeah, open to the public, free. There's wine there too. So, just saying.
I've been supporting a campaign from Bee City USA, and they're going to be doing butterfly murals, which is really fun. So they've got a little fundraiser going on right now to try and raise some awareness to do murals, to be able to speak more about pollinators and all that. So that's been fun.
Where are the murals going to be?
I think they have to work all that out, right? They're just in stage like fundraiser mode, right? And I think a lot of it will be private property to start with, right? It'll be easier.
But it'll be here locally.
Yeah. It'll all be Bee City USA in Asheville area. So.
Can I ask a follow-up question about that?
Sure.
Was the original iteration for that to be like sculptural wings?
That's a great question. I got involved just like a couple months ago, and the project had already kind of gotten started. So I don't know where it originated
I heard something
from.
about that, and I thought it was through Bee City. But
It totally
may
could
have
be.
morphed into murals, because I know the
Yep.
sculpture was
Yep.
difficult with the river and floodplain and all that.
I think that's kind of what they decided, was smaller murals to like get the message out and share that, was a good starting point, right? Sometimes we dream really big with public art, and it's not always that easy. Any other comments? Awesome. Did we have public comment beforehand? I forgot to ask you.
That was the next thing on here.
Perfect.
Any public comment? Anyone?
Yeah, great, Leslie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Leslie Anderson, a member of the Urban Trail Committee, and a longtime supporter and volunteer and staff to the project, starting way back in 1989. I want to thank Carly for including in the report today an update on some of what we've talked about relative to uniting what the trail is doing more with what the Public Art Commission is doing and vice versa. I would just ask that we bring this approach that you all have about the working groups, bring that one specifically to our committee for input and attention and interest and any ideas that the committee has. For all these years, some 30 years now, I guess, we have had this up and down relationship between the Public Art Board, once it was established by Mayor Sicknick, and with the city. And once we had changes in city staff all over the place, and it's just been rather erratic. And of course, the majority of the public art collection that we have are these 30 stations that we have on the trail. And so so many of our members are very interested in making sure that we do get to this place where it is a more connected relationship, and we've got some things in writing. And I've read the ordinance, and clearly there are many things that we hold in common, and we want to be a part of all of what the art scene is in Asheville, as well as history. We don't have the trail just for the art, but also for explaining local history. And so I would just suggest that as you all are doing your planning, which I commend you for, that we just be included as members of a very active group right now. We're very busy right now. As Carly mentioned, several of the things on the list that volunteers are doing, and I think it'll be really strong if we can get some of that conversation going. And at our next meeting, maybe we could do that. And the projects, we're thrilled with the Art Deco announcement to artists, and that's great. And the cleaning of the plaques, as Carly said, we've done this assessment, and they just really are in need of attention. And of course, this is part of having a public art collection, is that the pieces are given good stewardship. And so we all want to be a part of that. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing how this moves along. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I didn't open the gavel, so we'll just adjourn it. Thank you.